5 weeks after my sister Carol's funeral, her financial advisor called me. I was in the kitchen making coffee when my phone rang, and I almost didn't answer because I didn't recognize the number. Mrs. Patterson? This is Jennifer Chen from Riverside Wealth Management. I handled your sister's investment portfolio. I need to speak with you privately. It's urgent. My hand trembled as I set down the coffee pot. Is something wrong with the estate settlement? There was a pause. Mrs. Patterson, I found something very disturbing in Carol's accounts. Multiple unauthorized transfers, large sums, but please, don't tell your nephew about this call. Not yet. Can you come to my office today? I felt my stomach drop. What are you saying? Michael handles everything. He had power of attorney. I know. That's why I'm calling you instead of him. Please. 2 o'clock today. Come alone. The phone call lasted maybe 2 minutes, but it shattered the fragile peace I'd built since losing Carol. My younger sister, my best friend, had died of cancer at 68 after an 18-month battle that devastated all of us. Michael, her only child, had been her primary caretaker. He'd moved into her house, managed her medications, handled her finances. We'd all been so grateful. Now this woman was suggesting something was wrong. I couldn't breathe properly. I sat at my kitchen table and stared at nothing, trying to make sense of it. Michael, sweet Michael, who'd cried at his mother's bedside, who'd held her hand through chemotherapy, who'd organized the beautiful funeral service where he could barely get through his eulogy. I called my husband Tom at work. Something's happened. I need you. At 1:45, Tom and I walked into the Riverside Wealth Management office in downtown Portland. Jennifer Chen was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with kind eyes that looked tired. She closed the door to her office and gestured for us to sit. Thank you for coming. I know this must be confusing and frightening. She pulled a thick folder from her desk drawer. I've been Carol's advisor for 12 years. I knew her well. And in the last 6 months of her life, something changed dramatically in her accounts. She opened the folder. Bank statements, transfer records, pages and pages of numbers that made my head spin. Starting last January, there were weekly transfers from Carol's checking account to an account I'd never seen before. $500, $1,000, sometimes more. By July, over $47,000 had been moved. Then, in August, there was a large transfer from her investment portfolio, $75,000. That can't be right, I whispered. Michael would have told us. He was managing everything because Carol was too sick. Jennifer's expression was gentle but grave. These transfers were all authorized by someone with power of attorney. The timing is significant. They accelerated as Carol's condition worsened. As she became less aware, Tom gripped my hand. Are you saying Michael stole from his own mother? I'm saying the pattern is consistent with financial elder abuse. I've seen it before. It's more common than people realize, especially when a family member has legal authority over accounts. She paused. There's something else. Carol came to see me 3 months before she died. I didn't realize how important that visit was until I reviewed everything last week. She pulled out a handwritten note clipped to one of the statements. Carol's shaky handwriting, barely legible. I recognized it from the last birthday card she'd sent me. Jennifer, I'm not sure what's happening with my money. Michael says we need it for my care, but the bills don't seem to match what's leaving my account. I'm probably confused from the medication. But if something happens to me, please show this to my sister Linda. She'll know what to do. Tears burned my eyes. Carol had known, or suspected, and she'd tried to leave me a clue. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Why not go straight to the police? Because Carol specifically wanted you to know first, and because I need to be certain before I make formal accusations. Family financial abuse cases are complex, but Mrs. Patterson, I think your sister left more than just this note. When she came to see me that day, she said something strange. She said, I'm keeping a record. Everything's in the red box where we used to hide our secrets. I felt the room tilt. The red box. My throat closed with the memory. When Carol and I were young girls, maybe 8 and 10, we'd found an old metal cash box in our grandmother's attic. We'd painted it bright red and used it to store our precious things. Diary entries, favorite photos, notes we passed in school. We'd hidden it in different places over the years, our secret sister treasure box. I hadn't thought about it in decades. Do you know what she meant? Jennifer asked. Yes, I breathed. I know exactly what she meant. That evening, Tom and I drove to Carol's house. Michael had been living there since the funeral, sorting through his mother's belongings. The house still smelled like her lavender hand lotion. I had to steady myself against the doorframe. Aunt Linda! Michael appeared from the kitchen, surprise crossing his face. I didn't know you were coming by. He looked thinner than at the funeral, dark circles under his eyes. 36 years old and exhausted, or guilty. I couldn't tell anymore. I wanted to pick up some of Carol's photo albums, I lied, for the memorial wall I'm making. Of course, you know where everything is. I'll be in the den if you need me. I waited until I heard the television turn on, then I went upstairs to Carol's bedroom, to the closet, to the shelf where we used to keep board games. Behind the old Monopoly set and the puzzle boxes, my fingers found it. The red metal box, dusty and dented, but still there. My hands shook as I pulled it down. It was heavier than I remembered. I took it into Carol's bathroom and locked the door. Inside were notebooks. 3 spiral-bound notebooks filled with Carol's handwriting, dating back to January of last year. The first entry made my breath catch. January 15. Michael asked me to sign papers giving him power of attorney. He says it's just to make things easier when I'm too sick to handle things myself. It makes sense. I'm so tired. But something in his eyes when I signed made me uneasy. I'm probably being paranoid. The cancer treatment makes me paranoid about everything. I flipped through the pages. Entries documenting her growing confusion about money. Bills that didn't make sense. Michael's explanations that seemed reasonable but felt wrong. March 3. Michael said we needed $5,000 for a new medication my insurance won't cover. But when I called the insurance company, they said it was approved. When I asked him about it, he got defensive, said I was confused. Maybe I am. April 12. I found a bank statement in Michael's room. An account I didn't know existed. My name is on it, but I never opened it. 6 transactions totaling $32,000. When I confronted him, he said it was a special medical fund. He had the papers I signed. I don't remember signing those papers. I don't remember anything anymore. The entries grew more desperate. May 8. I'm not crazy. I hid my real bank statements where Michael won't find them. The home health aide he hired costs $300 a week. He's been telling me it costs $3,000. Where is the rest going? June 20. I asked to see my investment portfolio today. Michael said there were some necessary withdrawals for my care. $75,000 gone, he cried. Said he was sorry. Said he'd borrowed some and would pay it back. He begged me not to tell anyone. He's my son. I can't send him to prison, but I can't let him destroy himself either. I'm going to document everything. For Linda. She'll know what to do. The last entry was dated August 10, 3 weeks before Carol died. I'm so tired. Too tired to fight. But I'm not too tired to protect my sister from making my mistakes. Linda, if you're reading this, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I let it get this far. I'm sorry I chose denial over truth because he's my son and I loved him too much to see what he was becoming. But you deserve to know. You deserve to protect yourself. The evidence is all here. The real bank statements, the forged signatures, the fake medical bills, everything. I'm also leaving you a letter. It's in the envelope tucked in the back of the last notebook. Read it when you're ready. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely turn to the envelope. Carol's handwriting on the front. For Linda. When you're strong enough. I opened it. Dear Linda, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm so sorry to burden you with this truth. I'm sorry I didn't tell you while I was alive. But I was ashamed and afraid, and I kept hoping Michael would stop. That I was wrong about him. I wasn't wrong. My son has been stealing from me for over a year. Systematically, methodically, using my illness as cover. I estimate he's taken over $200,000, maybe more. I've documented what I could, but toward the end I was too sick to catch everything. I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I stop him? Why didn't I call the police? Because he's my baby. Because I kept remembering him at 5 years old, bringing me dandelions. Because addiction does terrible things to people, and I think that's what this is. Some kind of addiction to money or gambling or something I don't understand. Because I'm dying anyway, and I couldn't bear the thought of my last months turning into a police investigation and a trial. But I also can't bear the thought of him doing this to someone else. To you, to Tom, to anyone. So I'm leaving you this choice. The choice I couldn't make for myself. You can take this evidence to the police. You can see that justice is done. You can protect other people from him. Or you can forgive him. Tell him you know. Give him a chance to make it right. To get help. I don't know which choice is right. I just know I couldn't make it myself. What I do know is this. You are the strongest person I've ever known. You survived our mother's death when we were so young. You raised 2 children through poverty and made them into good people. You fought through your own health scares with courage I could never find. You'll know what to do. You always do. I love you. I'm sorry. Thank you for being my sister, my best friend, my hero. Always. Carol. I sat on the bathroom floor and cried until I couldn't breathe. Tom found me there 20 minutes later. I showed him everything. What do you want to do? He asked quietly. I don't know. He's my nephew. Carol's son. He's also a thief who exploited his dying mother. She wanted to protect him. She also wanted to protect everyone else. That's why she left you the evidence. Downstairs, Michael was still watching television, still living in his mother's house, still pretending everything was normal. I thought about the $47,000, the $75,000, the $200,000 Carol estimated, money that should have been used for her care, for her comfort in her final months, money that should have been split between Michael and me in her will, money that should have funded the grandchildren's college funds she'd talked about. I thought about other families, other trusting elderly parents, other Carols who wouldn't be strong enough to document what was happening to them. I thought about Carol writing in those notebooks, sick and dying and heartbroken, still trying to protect people. Call Jennifer Chen, I told Tom. Tell her we have everything. Tell her we're going to the police tomorrow. Tom nodded and pulled out his phone. As he dialed, I walked downstairs. Michael looked up when I entered the den. Find what you needed? Yes, I said. I found exactly what Carol wanted me to find. Something flickered across his face. Fear. Recognition, Aunt Linda. Don't. My voice came out harder than I'd ever heard it. Don't say anything right now. Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, I need you to come to the Portland police station. I'll be there with Jennifer Chen and a lawyer. You can bring your own lawyer if you want. His face went white. What are you talking about? I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. Carol knew too. She documented everything. He stood up. She was confused. The medication. She was sharp as a tack until the very end, and we both know it. She loved you enough to protect you while she was alive. I love you enough to stop you before you do this to someone else. You can't prove anything. Actually, I can. Carol made sure of that. I walked out. Tom followed. In the car, I finally fell apart, sobbing so hard I thought I might be sick. I'm doing the right thing, aren't I? I asked Tom. You're doing the brave thing. That's what matters. The next morning, with Jennifer Chen and a lawyer named Robert Santos, I sat across from 2 detectives at the Portland Police Department. I gave them the notebooks, the bank statements, the forged signatures, Carol's letter, everything. Detective Morrison, a woman in her 50s who reminded me of Carol, listened carefully. This is very clear documentation. Your sister did thorough work. She was a teacher, I said. She was always thorough. We'll need to verify everything, but this appears to be a strong case of financial elder abuse. The D.A. will likely want to prosecute. Are you prepared for that? For what this means for your family? I thought about Carol's letter, about her giving me the choice she couldn't make herself. Yes, I said, I'm prepared. Michael came to the police station with a lawyer. I wasn't there for that meeting, but Detective Morrison called me that evening. He confessed. Once we showed him the documentation, he broke down. Gambling debts. Started small. Thought he could pay it back. Snowballed. He's agreed to cooperate fully. What happens now? That depends on the D.A. Given the amount stolen and the victim's vulnerable state, he's likely facing felony charges. Several years in prison, probably. I closed my eyes. Carol's baby. The little boy who brought me dandelions too, who called me Auntie Lynn, who I'd loved like my own son. He needs help, I said. Not just punishment. He needs addiction treatment. That will be up to the judge. But your recommendation will carry weight as the victim's sister. The victim. Carol was the victim. My brilliant, kind, funny sister who died while her son stole from her. The trial was 3 months later. Michael pleaded guilty to multiple counts of financial elder abuse and theft. The judge sentenced him to 4 years in prison, with a recommendation for addiction treatment during his incarceration. He was also ordered to make full restitution, though there was almost nothing left to recover. At the sentencing, I read a statement. I talked about Carol, about the sister who taught me to ride a bike, who held me when our mother died, who celebrated every triumph in my life like it was her own. I talked about the woman who documented her son's crimes not to punish him, but to prevent him from hurting others. My sister gave me a choice, I told the courtroom, to seek justice or to forgive. I realized those aren't opposites. Real forgiveness doesn't mean letting someone escape consequences. It means loving them enough to hold them accountable, to give them the chance to become better than their worst actions. Michael cried through my entire statement. After the sentencing, as they led him away, he looked at me. I'm sorry, Aunt Linda. I'm so sorry. I know you are. Get help, Michael. Be the man your mother believed you could be. That was 8 months ago. I visit Michael once a month at the correctional facility. We don't talk about the money. We talk about Carol, about his childhood, about the addiction counseling he's receiving, about the steps he's taking to understand what he did and why. Some of my friends think I'm crazy for maintaining contact. He stole from his dying mother, they say. How can you forgive that? I don't know if I have forgiven it. Forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. It's a process. Some days I'm angry. Some days I'm heartbroken. Some days I look at him through that prison glass and still see the little boy Carol loved so much. But I know this. Carol gave me her strength when she documented everything. She gave me her courage when she wrote that letter. And she gave me her love when she refused to let shame and fear silence the truth. Since Carol's death, I've become an advocate for elder abuse awareness. I speak at senior centers about the warning signs, about the importance of having multiple people involved in financial decisions, about how abuse often comes from the people we trust most. I've heard from 7 other families dealing with similar situations. Some have reached out after hearing my story. Others found me through the support group I started in Carol's name. Each story is different, but the pain is always the same. The betrayal, the confusion, the awful choice between protecting a loved one and protecting others. I tell them what I learned, that you can love someone and still hold them accountable, that choosing justice doesn't make you cruel, it makes you responsible, that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say, no, this stops here, with me. Carol's house sold 6 months ago. The proceeds went to restitution payments and legal fees. There wasn't much left for her grandchildren's college funds like she'd planned. But I started a scholarship in her name at the local community college, funded by my speaking fees and donations from people who've heard our story. It's for students studying to become elder care advocates. Last week, the first scholarship was awarded. The recipient is a young woman whose grandmother was financially exploited by a caretaker. She wants to become a social worker specializing in elder abuse prevention. When they announced her name at the ceremony, I thought about Carol, about her sitting in her bathroom, sick and dying, filling those notebooks, choosing truth over comfortable lies, choosing protection over easy silence. I thought about the red metal box we hid our secrets in as girls. How Carol transformed it from a place for childhood treasures into a vessel for the hardest truth of her life. And I thought about the question she'd asked me in her letter. What's the right choice? I still don't have a perfect answer. But I know this. Carol's documentation saved me from the same fate. Her courage gave me courage. Her refusal to stay silent gave me permission to speak. Michael gets out in 3 years. I don't know what our relationship will look like then. I don't know if he'll have truly changed, or if the addiction he's being treated for will still have its claws in him. But I know I'll be there when he's released, not because I've forgotten what he did, not because I think prison has magically fixed everything, but because Carol loved him until her last breath, and that love is part of her legacy too. The strongest thing my sister ever did wasn't fighting cancer for 18 months. It was fighting for truth in the middle of that battle. It was choosing to protect others even when protection for herself was no longer possible. If you're reading this and you have an elderly parent or relative, please pay attention. Look at their bank statements. Ask questions. Be involved. Don't assume the family member helping them is acting in their best interest. Don't assume confusion or paranoia is just a side effect of age or illness. And if you suspect something is wrong, don't do what Carol did. Don't wait. Don't hope it will stop. Don't let shame or fear or love keep you silent. Call someone. Tell someone. Document everything. Because the person being exploited might not be strong enough to protect themselves. They might be too sick, too tired, too confused, or too heartbroken by the betrayal to fight back. They need you to fight for them. Carol fought for me even as she was dying. She left me a map through the darkness. She gave me the red metal box and everything it contained. Now I'm passing that gift forward. To every family struggling with these awful choices. To every person trying to balance love and justice. To everyone who needs permission to speak the hard truths. You are not alone. The choice is never easy. But choosing truth, choosing accountability, choosing to protect the vulnerable, even when it costs you everything, that's what love sometimes looks like. That's what my sister taught me, and that's what I'll spend the rest of my life honoring.